I stood in the kitchen, my fingers trembling slightly from chopping vegetables for hours. 78 years had left their mark on these knuckles. But none of that mattered today. Today was Thanksgiving, the day I looked forward to all year. Mom, don't go to all this trouble. Something simple is fine. My son Michael's voice drifted in from the living room, punctuated by the sound effects of a game on his phone. I wiped the sweat from my brow and answered with a smile. How can Thanksgiving dinner be simple? When you were little, you loved my pot roast and my special stuffing the most. I've made them both. The kitchen was filled with the aroma of a dozen different ingredients, the turkey stock that had been simmering for 3 hours, the candied yams fresh from the oven, and the homemade dinner rolls I had kneaded myself. Every dish was a celebration of my love for my family. Since my husband passed away 5 years ago, having Thanksgiving dinner with my son's family had become my only solace. Grandma, is dinner ready yet? I'm starving. My 8-year-old grandson, Leo, scampered into the kitchen, his eyes sparkling as he looked at the feast on the counter. Almost ready, sweetie, I said, stroking his head. Go tell your mom and dad to get ready to eat. Watching his little figure bounce away, a wave of warmth washed over me. Even though my daughter-in-law, Sarah, was always cold to me, at least my grandson still loved his grandma. Half an hour later, a lavish Thanksgiving dinner was finally on the table. I carefully placed the last dish, the golden brown roast turkey, in the center. Traditionally, the first slice was for the oldest member of the family, a symbol of abundance for the year to come. Dinner's ready, I called out to the living room, my voice filled with unconcealed joy. Sarah sauntered over, frowning as she scanned the table. This is way too much food. Can we even finish it all? Thanksgiving is supposed to be a feast. It symbolizes prosperity for the coming year, I explained with a smile, pulling out a chair to sit down. Wait. Sarah suddenly stopped me. Mom, did you wash your hands? Older people have more germs on their hands. We don't want to get the kids sick. I froze, holding up my hands, which I had just scrubbed with soap. I washed them. They're very clean. Well, all right. Why don't you sit over there, at the far end of the table, a little farther from Leo? My heart felt like it had been pricked by a needle, but I silently walked to the designated seat. It's okay, I told myself. As long as we can eat together as a family, it doesn't matter where I sit. Michael finally put his phone down and ambled to the table. He glanced at the spread of food, his expression complicated. Mom, you worked too hard making all this. It's no trouble, as long as you all enjoy it. I was about to serve my son a piece of roast when Sarah suddenly stood up. Why does this have a weird smell? She wrinkled her nose, poking at the pot roast with her fork. Mom, did you use cheap meat for this? Of course not, I quickly explained. I went to the butcher this morning and had him pick out the best cut for me. Before I could finish, Sarah picked up the platter of pot roast, walked to the kitchen, and scraped the entire thing directly into the dog's bowl. Here you go, buddy, she said to our golden retriever. My throat felt clogged. My fingers unconsciously clutched the tablecloth. I had slow-cooked that roast for 2 hours, each piece tender and marbled. And I bet this turkey is dry, Sarah said, returning to the table and jabbing the turkey with a fork. Older people's taste buds are shot. They can't tell the difference between good and bad food anymore. Sarah, I finally couldn't hold it in any longer. Everything I cooked is fresh. All right, it's Thanksgiving. Michael cut me off, his eyes still glued to his phone. Mom's getting older. It's normal for her to make a few mistakes in the kitchen. Sarah scoffed and began clearing the other dishes, dumping them one by one into the dog's bowl. When people get old, even their cooking starts to smell old. It's better not to eat it. We might get sick. My vision blurred. All I could hear was the happy sound of the dog chewing and the clatter of plates. A year of anticipation, a full day of labor, all dumped into a dog bowl. Ha! Michael suddenly laughed out loud, his eyes never leaving his screen. This game is hilarious. I couldn't tell if he was laughing at the game or at his own mother's humiliation. Tears finally streamed down my face, dripping onto my tightly clenched hands. After emptying the last dish, Sarah wiped her hands. I ordered pizza. It'll be here in half an hour. Mom, if you're not too proud, you can eat the dog's leftovers. I slowly stood up, my legs heavy as lead. A drop of hot grease splattered onto the back of my hand, but I felt no pain. I silently wiped it away with my apron and turned towards the front door. "Mom, where are you going?" Michael finally looked up. I didn't answer. I didn't even look back. The moment I opened the door, a bitter wind hit my face, but I no longer felt the cold. It was nothing compared to the chill in my heart. The streets were decorated with holiday lights, and sounds of laughter echoed from every home. I walked aimlessly, the tears freezing on my cheeks. In all my 78 years, I had never felt so alone, so utterly useless. After walking for what felt like an eternity, my legs began to give out. Just then, a bright sign caught my eye. Silver Harbor Senior Center. A poster on the door advertised a special Thanksgiving night event. As if guided by an unseen hand, I pushed the door open. Warm air, mingled with the scent of food, rushed to greet me, a stark contrast to the cold outside. I stood at the entrance, unsure of what to do. "Happy Thanksgiving." A woman in her early 60s greeted me warmly. "Are you here for our Thanksgiving event?" I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. My throat felt like it was stuffed with cotton, all my grief and sorrow trapped inside. She seemed to notice my distress and gently took my icy hand. "Goodness, your hands are freezing. Come in and get warm. I'm the director here, Mrs. Peterson." She led me into a spacious, brightly lit hall with a dozen round tables. About 30 or 40 seniors were gathered, some baking pies, others chatting. The atmosphere was lively and warm. "Please, sit here, Mrs." Peterson guided me to a seat near the fireplace and handed me a cup of hot tea. "Drink this. It'll warm you up." "What should I call you?" My name is Eleanor. Eleanor Vance." I finally found my voice, though it still trembled. "Well, Eleanor, welcome to Silver Harbor," Mrs. Peterson smiled. "Today is Thanksgiving, so we've organized a potluck for all the seniors staying with us. Would you like to join?" I looked at the kind faces around me. Some were skillfully rolling out pie crusts, others were carefully filling them, and a few were gathered in a corner, laughing. There were no judgmental stares, no harsh words, only pure warmth. I can help with the pies," I said, setting my cup down, my voice a little firmer now. "I'm very good at making pies." "That would be wonderful." Mrs. Peterson's eyes lit up. "We're short on hands. Arthur is rolling out the dough so fast none of us can keep up." I was led to a long table where several seniors kindly made room for me. An old gentleman with a full head of white hair, presumably Arthur, was rolling out perfectly round crusts at an astonishing speed. "A newcomer!" Arthur grinned at me, revealing a few gold teeth. "Judging by those hands, I bet you're a pro." I looked down at my own hands, covered in wrinkles and age spots, but still nimble. These hands had baked countless pies for my son, made countless pots of soup when he was sick, and prepared countless nutritious meals when he was studying for the SATs. "Here you go, Eleanor." A lady in a knit hat handed me a bowl of prepared apple filling. "See if the seasoning is to your liking." I took a small taste with a spoon. It could use a little more cinnamon, and it's a bit tart. A touch of brown sugar and some butter would perfect it. "Well, look at that, an expert." Arthur gave me a thumbs up. "You've got a good palate, ma'am." With their encouragement, I adjusted the filling. Soon, a variety of beautifully crafted pies took shape under my hands. There were classic lattice-top pies, crumb-top pies, and even little star-shaped hand pies I used to make for my grandson. "Eleanor, your skills are amazing." Mrs. Peterson had appeared behind me. "Those star-shaped pies are just beautiful." "My grandson loves them," I said. At the mention of Leo, my heart ached again. What was he eating now? Did he miss his grandma? "Eleanor, your family?" Mrs. Peterson started to ask, but then changed her mind. "Would you be willing to share your secret for the filling? Many of our residents say our pies are especially delicious tonight." I nodded and began to explain how to choose the right apples, the importance of balancing sweet and tart, and the little trick of adding a pinch of nutmeg for warmth. The other seniors gathered around, listening intently, nodding, and asking questions. In this atmosphere, I gradually forgot my pain and rediscovered the long-lost feeling of being needed. "Dinner is served," a voice called out. Piping hot pies and other dishes were brought to the tables. "Mrs." Peterson insisted I sit at the main table, introducing me as the hero behind the night's delicious dessert. The table was laden with simple, heartfelt dishes. Besides the pies, there was baked salmon, garlic butter shrimp, and a 3-bean salad. It wasn't as extravagant as the feast I had prepared, but every dish radiated warmth and sincerity. "Eleanor, try this salmon. Mr. Williams caught it himself this morning," the lady next to me said, kindly placing a piece on my plate. "Thank you. I can get it myself," I said, a little embarrassed but feeling a warmth spread through my chest. How long had it been since someone had served me? Since my husband died, I had always eaten alone. "A toast!" Mrs. Peterson raised her glass of sparkling cider. "To our new friend, Eleanor, and to all the old friends who have found happiness at Silver Harbor. Cheers." "Cheers," everyone echoed. I raised my glass, my eyes welling up again, but this time with tears of gratitude. Just as we were about to dig in, the main door of the center swung open. A familiar voice called out, "Excuse me, has anyone seen a woman in her late 70s, about this tall, wearing a dark blue coat?" The fork fell from my hand and clattered onto the table. It was Michael. He had actually found me. The chatter in the hall died down, and all eyes turned to the door. Michael stood there, his hair a mess from the wind, his face etched with anxiety. When he saw me at the main table, his expression immediately relaxed. "Mom, there you are." He rushed over. "We've been looking all over for you. Why did you just run off without saying anything?" I sat frozen in my chair, unable to respond. The heartbreaking scene from a few hours ago replayed in my mind. My Thanksgiving dinner thrown to the dog, my son's indifference, his laughter. "Sir, are you Eleanor's son?" Mrs. Peterson stood up, politely but firmly positioning herself between me and Michael. "Yes, I'm her son," Michael said, trying to get past her. "Mom, let's go home. Sarah and Leo are worried sick about you." My heart trembled at the sound of my grandson's name. Leo was innocent in all of this. But Sarah, worried about me? That was a joke. "Mr. Vance," Mrs. Peterson did not move. "Eleanor is our guest tonight. She's celebrating Thanksgiving with us. If you wish to take her home, you should at least ask for her consent first." Michael was stunned. He clearly hadn't expected anyone to stop him from taking his own mother home. His gaze went past Mrs. Peterson to me. "Mom, do you really want to spend Thanksgiving here, with a bunch of strangers instead of us?" "Mr. Vance." Mrs. Peterson's tone became stern. "Please watch your words. Everyone here is a respected individual, not someone's property. Eleanor has every right to decide where and with whom she celebrates the holiday." Michael's face flushed. He looked from Mrs. Peterson to me. "Mom, is that really how you feel? Just because Sarah said a few harsh words, you're going to abandon your own son and grandson?" His words were like daggers. Abandon? Who abandoned whom? Who threw their mother's full day of hard work to the dog? Who ignored their mother's heartbreak? "Michael?" I took a deep breath, trying to control my trembling voice. "Do you have any idea how long I spent preparing that dinner today? I started at 6 in the morning, just so you could have a proper Thanksgiving meal. And your wife, she fed it all to the dog. She said that old people's cooking smells old." A murmur went through the room. A few of the older women looked indignant. Michael's face changed. "Mom, Sarah, she's just brutally honest. Don't take it to heart. Besides, you are getting older. Maybe the food really was..." "Was what?" I cut him off, my voice stronger than I expected. "Not fresh? Not good? Michael, since you were a child, have you ever had a meal that wasn't cooked by me? The year you got into college, I woke up at 4 every morning to make you soup. On your wedding day, I catered the entire reception. After Leo was born, I went to your house every week to make him nutritious meals. And now, because I'm old, my cooking suddenly smells." My tears finally broke free, and this time I made no attempt to hide them. Let them all see what a mother's broken heart looked like. Michael was speechless, standing there helplessly. The hall was so quiet you could hear the hum of the heating vents. "Young man," Arthur suddenly spoke, his voice low and powerful. "I've lived 83 years. I've seen my share of ungrateful children, but I've never seen one humiliate his own mother to her face like this. I didn't, Michael started to argue, but was cut off by another woman. The pie your mother made is the best I've ever tasted, she said, pointing to the elegant star-shaped pies on the table. You're complaining about a talent like that? My son's favorite dish was my brisket. An old man leaning on a cane chimed in. Unfortunately, I had a stroke last year, and my right hand isn't what it used to be. I can't make it for him anymore. I'd give 10 years of my life to cook it for him one more time. And you fed your mother's pot roast to a dog. Michael was overwhelmed by the sudden barrage of condemnation. He turned to me, his voice pleading. Mom, I was wrong. Please come home with me. I promise Sarah won't treat you like that again. I looked at him, the son I had carried for 9 months and raised with all my heart. His face still held traces of the little boy he once was, but the boy who used to hug me and say Mom's cooking is the best was gone. Michael, I wiped my tears. You should go home. I want to stay here tonight. Mom? Go home, I repeated. Tell Leo that Grandma made him star-shaped pies. Tomorrow, I'll visit him tomorrow. Michael stood there, looking like he wanted to say more, but in the end, he just sighed. Okay, you take care of yourself. Call me if you need anything. As he turned to leave, his silhouette looked incredibly lonely. A sharp pain shot through my heart, but I knew I had to stick to my decision tonight, not just for myself, but to make him understand that a mother's love isn't a given, and a mother's dignity is not to be trampled. After the door closed, Mrs. Peterson gently patted my shoulder. Eleanor, are you all right? I nodded, forcing a smile. I'm fine. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for speaking up for me. Don't mention it, Arthur said with a wave of his hand. We seniors have to stick together. Come on, the pies are getting cold. Let's eat. The lively atmosphere returned. I picked up a pie I had made myself and took a bite. The crispness of the apple and the warmth of the cinnamon spread through my mouth. It was the first real taste of Thanksgiving I'd had all day. Eleanor, Mrs. Peterson leaned in and whispered, If you need it, we have temporary lodging available. We have a few very comfortable guest rooms for seniors. I looked at her, surprised. Really? Of course, she smiled. Silver Harbor was created to help seniors in need. It's not just a recreation center, it's a temporary refuge. I looked at the friendly faces around me, feeling a sense of respect and value I hadn't felt in years. I made a decision. In that case, I'd like to stay here tonight. Wonderful. Mrs. Peterson seemed genuinely pleased. I'll show you to your room after dinner. Oh, and we have special holiday activities planned for tomorrow. Would you be interested? Tomorrow was supposed to be for family, but did my family still consider me one of them? The thought of Sarah's scornful eyes and Michael's indifference made my heart sink again. Yes, I replied. I would love to participate. In that moment, I saw a new path forward, one where I was no longer dependent on a family that didn't respect me, but one where I could find my own life and my own worth. At 78, perhaps it wasn't too late to start over. Sunlight streamed through the sheer curtains, waking me. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. The unfamiliar ceiling, the neat single bed, the glass of water still steaming on the nightstand, this wasn't my home. Then the memories flooded back. The humiliating Thanksgiving dinner, leaving home, Silver Harbor. I sat up abruptly, my joints creaking softly. After a night in a strange bed, my 78-year-old body felt more rested than it ever did on the expensive mattress at home. Eleanor, are you awake? A gentle knock came at the door. It was Mrs. Peterson. Yes, I'm up, I called out, running a hand through my messy silver hair. Mrs. Peterson entered, carrying a tray. Good morning. I brought you some breakfast. I hope it's to your liking. On the tray was a steaming bowl of oatmeal, a side of pickled cucumbers, 2 boiled eggs, and a small muffin. It was simple, yet thoughtful. Oh, this is too much trouble, I stammered. It had been years since anyone had brought me breakfast. After my husband died, I just fended for myself in the kitchen each morning. It's no trouble at all, Mrs. Peterson said with a smile, placing the tray on a small lap desk. Did you sleep well? Surprisingly well, I admitted, taking a sip of the oatmeal. It was the perfect temperature, creamy and thick. Yes, very well. I'm glad to hear it. This morning we have a holiday tea social, followed by card games in the afternoon and a movie night. Would you be interested in joining? I was about to answer when I remembered. My phone seems to be dead. I left in such a hurry last night, I forgot my charger. I can take it to the office to charge for you. If you need to make a call, you can use the phone here. Mrs. Peterson pointed to the telephone on the nightstand. Just dial 9 for an outside line. After she left with my phone, I slowly enjoyed my breakfast. The cucumbers were perfectly crisp and tangy. I couldn't help but think of the pickles I used to make for Michael. He always said Mom's pickles were the best. The thought of my son made my heart sink again. I wondered what happened after he went home last night. Did Leo ask for me? Was Sarah bad-mouthing me again? I shook my head, forcing myself to stop the pointless speculation. Since I had decided to stay here, I would put those worries aside for now. After breakfast, I got dressed and left my room. The center was much quieter than the night before. I followed the sound of voices to an activity room where a few seniors were setting up. Eleanor. Arthur was the first to see me, waving a string of festive lights. Come and help, we're getting ready for the tea social. For the next 2 hours, I helped hang decorations, arrange pastries on platters, and set out teacups. Arthur was on the ladder, and I directed him from below. Our teamwork was surprisingly smooth. You've got a good eye, Eleanor, Arthur said, climbing down to admire our work. These lights look much better than last year. What did you do for a living, Eleanor? Another woman, a Mrs. Chen, asked curiously. Me? I smiled. I was a quality inspector at a textile mill my whole life. After I retired, I volunteered with the PTA for 10 years. No wonder you're so organized, Mrs. Chen said admiringly. Look how neatly these tables are arranged. I felt a little embarrassed. At my son's house, these skills were never valued. Sarah always called me old-fashioned. But here, my simple experience was considered a valuable asset. At 10:30, the tea social began. About 30 seniors gathered, and Mrs. Peterson introduced me as their new friend, making special mention of the pies I had baked. A few who had missed dinner expressed their regret and made me promise to bake again soon. All right, everyone. Mrs. Peterson clapped her hands. It's the day after the holiday, and as is our tradition, let's share our hopes for the coming year. One by one, they spoke. Some wished for good health, others hoped their children would visit more often, and a few planned to learn new skills. When it was my turn, all eyes were on me. I fiddled with my teacup, thinking for a moment. I hope that in the new year, I can find an identity and value for myself beyond just being a mother and a grandmother. The words surprised even me. When had that thought taken root in my mind? Was it the moment Sarah dumped my food in the dog's bowl? Or was it when I saw the fulfilling lives of the seniors at the center? After a brief silence, Mrs. Peterson led a round of applause. Well said, Eleanor. You've spoken for many of us. We are not just someone's parent or grandparent. First and foremost, we are ourselves. After the social, several women gathered around me, sharing similar feelings. We talked about being neglected by our children, about feeling marginalized in our own homes, and about our longing for dignity, topics I had never discussed so deeply with anyone. During the afternoon card games, I chose to watch. The chess match between Arthur and Mrs. Chen was captivating. As I stood there, I suddenly remembered my phone. The office door was ajar. I knocked gently, but there was no answer. Pushing it open, I saw my phone on the charger. The screen lit up. 23 missed calls, all from Michael. My heart pounded. He had never tried to reach me so persistently. Had something happened? Or had he finally realized his mistake? My finger hovered over the callback button. I hesitated. If I called him now, would I be sucked back into that life of being disrespected? But what if it was a real emergency? You saw the calls. Mrs. Peterson's voice came from behind me. I nodded, showing her the screen. So many. I'm a little worried. Mrs. Peterson looked at the screen. Why don't you call him back and see what's going on? Whatever you decide, we will support you. Taking a deep breath, I pressed the button. The phone was answered on the first ring. Mom, you finally answered. Michael's voice was fraught with anxiety. Where are you? I'm coming to get you right now. I'm in a safe place, I replied cautiously. Is something wrong? Is something wrong? You left home on Thanksgiving night. You won't answer your phone, of course we're worried. His voice rose. Leo keeps asking where Grandma went. And Sarah? What about Sarah? I asked, sensing something was off. There was a pause. We had a fight. Mom, where are you? I'm coming to get you. A fight? Michael and Sarah had fought over me? That was a first. In the past, no matter how Sarah treated me, Michael always took her side. I don't want to go home right now, I heard myself say, my voice firmer than I expected. I want to stay here for a few days. Where is here, Mom? Stop being dramatic. It's the holidays. I am not being dramatic, I cut him off. Michael, I am 78 years old. I have the right to decide where I spend my holiday. If you really care about me, you will respect my decision. Silence again, this time longer. I could almost picture his stunned expression. His ever-compliant mother had suddenly developed a backbone. Then at least tell me where you are, so I can come see you. His tone softened. I glanced at Mrs. Peterson, who nodded in agreement. I sighed and gave him the address of the center. I'll be there this afternoon, he said and hung up. Putting down the phone, my hand was trembling slightly. It was the first time I had ever said no to my son, the first time I had insisted on my own wishes. Strangely, along with the nervousness, I felt a sense of relief. You did well, Eleanor. Mrs. Peterson squeezed my hand. Setting boundaries is the first step to a healthy relationship. At 4 p.m, Michael arrived as promised. I was teaching a few of the ladies how to make star-shaped hand pies when he walked into the activity room. Mom, he said, his voice hoarse. He was standing at the doorway to the kitchen. I looked up at him and my heart clenched. He looked exhausted. His eyes were bloodshot, and a dark stubble covered his chin. This wasn't my son, who was always so well-groomed. Here, try one of the pies we just baked, I said, ignoring his disheveled appearance and handing him a small plate. He mechanically took it and placed a piece in his mouth. After a few chews, his expression changed. This is your recipe. Well, of course it is, your mom's a pro. Arthur quipped from nearby. Michael looked around the room, at the warm environment, the friendly faces of the seniors, and the smile on my face that had been absent for so long. His eyes were a mixture of emotions. Mom, are you happy here? He asked carefully. I nodded. Very happy. Everyone here respects me. They appreciate my cooking. Michael looked down at his shoes. I'm sorry, Mom. I never realized you needed that. I didn't speak, just continued shaping the pie dough. Sometimes, silence is more powerful than words. Sarah, she knows she was wrong, Michael said with difficulty. We had a huge fight last night. Her parents called today and really laid into her. I raised an eyebrow in surprise. Sarah's parents? The intellectual, slightly snobbish couple? They had spoken up for me? How is Leo? I changed the subject. He's at home. He won't stop asking for his grandma, Michael said, looking up with pleading eyes. Mom, when are you coming home? Home? That place I had lived in for 5 years but had never felt like I belonged. That place where my labor and love were taken for granted. In a few days, I said softly. I'd like to participate in a few more activities here. Michael looked like he wanted to argue, but he just nodded. Well, can I visit you often? Of course, I smiled. You're always welcome. Here, have another pie. Watching my son devour the pies I had made, a glimmer of hope sparked within me. Perhaps this conflict wasn't entirely a bad thing. At least it was making Michael think about our relationship. And that was the first step toward change. Eleanor, great news. Mrs. Peterson bustled into the kitchen, waving a piece of paper. The community board has invited us to participate in the holiday fair the day after tomorrow. They want us to be in charge of the traditional foods booth. I was teaching a few ladies how to braid challah bread. I stopped what I was doing. That's wonderful. How many people do we need to prepare for? At least 200, Mrs. Peterson said excitedly. The director specifically mentioned wanting to showcase some dying arts, like candy making or gingerbread house decorating. Candy making? Arthur's eyes lit up. Old Mr. Johnson knows how to do that. He used to have a stall at the state fair. I know a little about gingerbread, Mrs. Chen said shyly. My mother-in-law taught me when I was young. Everyone started chattering excitedly. I listened quietly, feeling a bit apprehensive. 200 servings was no small feat. Eleanor. Mrs. Peterson seemed to sense my hesitation. We all agree that you should be the head chef for this event. Your skill and leadership are obvious to everyone. Me? I pointed to myself in disbelief. No, I couldn't possibly. Don't be so modest. Arthur patted my shoulder. Your pie filling is the best I've ever had, and you're a natural organizer. If not you, then who? The others voiced their support. I stood there, feeling trusted and needed in a way I hadn't in years. At my son's house, my opinion was never valued. Here, my abilities were treated like treasure. All right, I'll give it a try. I finally relented. But I'll need everyone's full cooperation. No problem, they all said in unison. We spent the next hour planning the menu, assigning tasks, and making a shopping list. I suggested we focus on traditional holiday comfort foods. Just as we were deep in discussion, one of the office assistants hurried in. Eleanor, your grandson is on the phone. He says it's urgent. My heart skipped a beat. Leo? How did he get this number? I quickly wiped my hands and followed her to the office. Grandma, Leo's tearful voice came through the receiver. When are you coming home? I miss you. My eyes instantly welled up. Sweetie, Grandma will come see you in a few days. How did you get this number? Daddy gave it to me, Leo sniffled. Grandma, Mommy, and Daddy are fighting again. I'm scared. My heart ached. Why are they fighting? Mommy said you're not coming home because you're mad at her. Daddy said she deserves it. Grandma, please don't be mad at Mommy anymore, okay? I want you to come home. The child's innocent words were like a knife in my heart. The conflicts of adults always ended up hurting the innocent children. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. Sweetie, Grandma isn't mad at Mommy. Grandma just has some things she needs to think about. Tell your daddy that there's a community fair the day after tomorrow and Grandma has to help. I'll come see you the day after that, okay? Really? Leo's voice brightened. You promise? Grandma promises, I said with a smile. And I have a Christmas present for you. I'll give it to you when I see you. After hanging up, I stood there for a long time. Leo's call made me realize that my decision affected not only myself and Michael's family, but also my beloved grandson. How could I balance my dignity with my love for him? Eleanor, Mrs. Peterson's voice brought me back to reality. Are you okay? I briefly told her about the call. She nodded thoughtfully. Family relationships are complicated, especially with children involved. But don't you think this could be a turning point? A turning point? Yes, she said, guiding me back to the kitchen and handing me a cup of tea. Your grandson wants you back, which means he loves and needs you. Your son gave him the number, which means he's starting to respect your choices. As for your daughter-in-law, if your absence is causing conflict with her husband, maybe she'll start to reconsider her actions. I sipped my tea, mulling over her words. Maybe she was right. The community fair, Mrs. Peterson continued, is a great opportunity. You can showcase your value and let your family see your place in the community. Sometimes, value in the eyes of outsiders is more easily recognized than sacrifices made within the family. I looked up. You mean I should invite them? Why not? Mrs. Peterson smiled. Let them see that you're not just Michael's mom or Leo's grandma. You're the talented and respected Miss Eleanor Vance. The suggestion was tempting. Perhaps this was what I needed to reclaim my independent self without abandoning my family. That evening, I sent a text to Michael, explaining the fair and inviting them to come. He replied almost instantly, "We'll definitely be there. Sarah said she wants to see you too." I stared at the message, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. Sarah wanted to see me? Was it genuine remorse or family pressure? Either way, this meeting would be a new beginning. The next day, we began our preparations in earnest. The center's kitchen was transformed into a bustling workshop. I was in charge of overall coordination and preparing the key recipes. Watching everyone work, listening to the constant chatter and laughter, I realized this was the sense of belonging I had always craved. Eleanor, try this dipping sauce. Mrs. Chen handed me a small bowl. I tasted it. A little more vinegar and garlic would make it perfect. You got it, she said cheerfully. Arthur was chopping meat with an energy that belied his age. So, your son is really coming tomorrow? Yes, the whole family, I said, a little self-consciously. Then we've got to put on a good show, he winked. Let them see that we seniors are not just sitting around doing nothing. Everyone laughed, but I could see the support in their eyes. In just a few days, these strangers had shown me more understanding and respect than my daughter-in-law had in 5 years. By evening, most of the prep work was done. We had made hundreds of savory pastries, baked dozens of loaves of bread, and the roasts were ready for the next day. Great work, everyone, Mrs. Peterson announced. We'll meet at 9 tomorrow morning and leave for the community center at 11. Eleanor, get a good night's sleep. Tomorrow is your big day. Back in my room, I tossed and turned. Would the fair be a success? Would Michael and his family really come? And if they did, how would they see this new version of me? More importantly, what would I do afterward? Go back to that oppressive house or find a life of my own? The questions swirled in my head until I finally drifted off to sleep late at night. In my dreams, I saw my husband's smiling face. He gave me a thumbs up, just like he did when I won the Skilled Technician Award at the mill. The community center hall was festively decorated and bustling with people. I stood at our team's booth, doing a final check. The pastries, the breads, the roasts, everything was beautifully arranged, with small cards explaining the history and techniques of each dish. Are you nervous, Eleanor? Mrs. Peterson asked, adjusting the Silver Harbor traditional foods team apron I was wearing. A little, I admitted, my fingers twisting the edge of my apron. I wonder if Michael and his family will come. I'm sure they will, she said firmly. I just saw some reporters heading this way. They want to interview us about our traditional foods display. Reporters? My heart beat faster. In my 78 years, I had never been interviewed. My late husband used to say that when I talked about cooking, I was more engaging than the hosts on the Food Network. At 11:30, the fair officially began. Our booth was an instant hit. The seniors worked together seamlessly. I was mainly responsible for answering technical questions. This meatball recipe is incredible, a middle-aged woman exclaimed after a sample. It's even better than my mother's. It's a traditional recipe, I explained with a smile. The secret is to add finely chopped water chestnuts to the meat mixture for a bit of crunch. As I was talking, I saw a familiar little figure in the crowd, Leo. He was wearing a bright red sweater and pulling Michael's hand, trying to get through the crowd to our booth. Sarah followed behind them, a strained expression on her face. Grandma! Leo spotted me and let go of his father's hand, running towards me. Sweetie! I knelt to catch him, my eyes welling up as I breathed in his familiar, clean scent. What are you doing here? Daddy said he was bringing me to see you, Leo said excitedly, pointing at our booth. Did you make all of this, Grandma? It's amazing. I looked up at Michael and Sarah as they approached. Michael's face was a mixture of surprise, confusion, and perhaps a hint of guilt. Sarah deliberately avoided my gaze, pretending to be interested in a nearby display. Mom. Michael finally spoke. Did you organize all this? Our team prepared it together, I said, standing up and gesturing to Mrs. Peterson. This is Mrs. Peterson, the director of Silver Harbor. Mrs. Peterson warmly greeted them and explained the center's mission and the purpose of our display. I noticed Michael's expression shift from surprise to thoughtfulness and finally to a hint of admiration. Excuse me, Miss Vance. A young man with a press pass approached me. Could you tell us more about the cultural background of these traditional holiday foods? I hear you have some unique family recipes. I glanced at Michael, who gave me an encouraging nod. I began to speak, explaining the symbolism of various dishes, from the hearty stews representing community to the sweet pies symbolizing a sweet life. I shared my grandmother's secret seasoning techniques and how to adapt recipes for different seasons. The reporter took copious notes, and the crowd around our booth grew. For that brief moment, I was the center of attention, no longer a neglected, scorned old woman. Mom, I had no idea you were so... Michael searched for the right word after the interview. Professional. I've lived 78 years. I ought to have something to show for it, I said, half joking, as I handed him a small plate. "Try this. It's the recipe you loved as a child." Michael took a bite of a savory pastry, and his eyes softened. "This is it. This is the taste I've been missing." Sarah stood off to the side, looking out of place. I proactively offered her a sample plate. "Sarah, you should try some too." She hesitated, then took it. As she bit into a slice of roast beef, her eyebrows shot up involuntarily, a habit she had when she tasted something delicious, a detail I had only learned after 5 years of cooking for her. "Is it good, Mommy?" Leo asked, looking up at her. "It's pretty good," Sarah admitted, her voice barely a whisper, but I heard it. Those 3 simple words meant the world to me. It was the first time in 5 years she had given a positive comment on my cooking, however reserved. Eleanor, Mrs. Peterson, hurried over. "The director would like you to come to the main stage to talk to all the guests about the culture of traditional holiday food. Can you do that?" I looked at Michael, and he nodded. "Go ahead, Mom. We'll wait for you here." Standing on the stage, facing hundreds of people, I felt surprisingly calm. This knowledge, these skills, were a part of me. Holiday food is about celebration, about togetherness. My voice was clear and strong as it echoed through the hall. I spoke about the meaning behind each dish, demonstrated a few simple techniques, and shared some childhood memories. When I mentioned that some traditions are disappearing, not because they aren't good enough, but because no one is willing to take the time to learn and pass them on, I saw Michael, in the front row, bow his head. The thunderous applause after my speech was surreal. As I came off the stage, several strangers stopped me to ask about Silver Harbor. I realized I hadn't just regained my dignity. I might be helping other seniors find a sense of belonging, too. Back at the booth, Michael's family was still waiting. Leo ran up to me. "Grandma, you were amazing. Everyone clapped for you." "Eleanor," Sarah spoke up suddenly, her voice a bit unnatural. We'd like to invite you to come home for dinner." I looked at her, stunned. It was the first time she had ever invited me. "Sarah," I didn't know how to respond. "Mom," Michael interjected. "We've talked. Sarah realizes she was wrong in some ways. And Leo really misses you." I looked at my grandson's hopeful eyes, my daughter-in-law's awkward expression, and my son's pleading gaze. The wall around my heart began to crumble. "Thank you for the invitation," I finally said. "But I promised the team I would join them for a celebration dinner tonight. Tomorrow, I'll come see Leo tomorrow, okay?" My answer clearly surprised them. Michael and Sarah exchanged a look. "All right then," Michael said. "We'll be waiting for you tomorrow." After they left, Mrs. Peterson put her arm around my shoulder. "You did the right thing, Eleanor. It's important to set boundaries. I just need some time to think," I sighed, "about what to do next." At the celebration dinner, the seniors were in high spirits. The community director made a special appearance to praise our team, and even proposed a long-term partnership to host regular traditional cooking workshops. "Eleanor, you made us all proud today," Arthur said, raising his glass of cider. "The way you spoke up there, you were more professional than the experts on TV." "She's right," Mrs. Chen added. "The things you talked about, even we who have lived here our whole lives have started to forget." Being praised by everyone was both touching and humbling. These skills, dismissed as old-fashioned at my son's house, were cherished as treasures here. "Everyone," Mrs. Peterson stood up to announce. "The community board has agreed to fund a series of workshops on preserving traditional food culture, with Eleanor as the head instructor." The sudden news caught me off guard. "Wait, I haven't agreed yet." "Oh, you will," Mrs. Peterson winked. "Think of how many seniors and children need to learn these fading memories." Her words struck a chord. If I didn't pass on these precious traditions, would they really be lost? I need to think about it," I said, but my heart was already leaning towards accepting. That night, back at the center, I couldn't sleep. Today's success had given me unprecedented confidence, but the thought of tomorrow's family meeting pulled me back to reality. How could I balance my newfound self-worth with my family responsibilities? Was it possible to repair my relationship with my son's family while maintaining my dignity? Outside, a sliver of a new moon hung in the sky. For the first time in my 78 years, I felt so conflicted, yet so clear-headed. Whatever I decided tomorrow, I knew one thing. The submissive Eleanor Vance was a person of the past. The success of the holiday fair exceeded everyone's expectations. The next morning, as I entered the dining hall at the center, I was startled by a round of applause. "Here comes our star," Arthur shouted, and the other seniors joined in the cheering. Mrs. Peterson handed me a newspaper with a smile. "Eleanor, you're in the news." I took the paper, and on the local section page, there was a large photo of me on stage. The headline read, "Guardian of Culinary Traditions, the Legacy of 7-8-year-old Eleanor Vance." The article detailed our event and specifically mentioned how my engaging explanations and exquisite skills had impressed the audience. This is too much," I said, my hands trembling slightly. "Not at all," Mrs. Peterson said seriously. "Do you know how many people called yesterday to inquire about our traditional cooking class? Over 30. The director is already thinking about a whole series." I carefully folded the newspaper, a strange feeling welling up inside me. For the first time in nearly 80 years, I was being recognized for my own talents, not just as someone's wife, mother, or grandmother. "By the way, Mrs. Peterson lowered her voice. "You're going back to your son's house today, right?" I nodded, a knot tightening in my stomach. Yesterday's triumph felt like a dream, and now I had to face the complicated reality of my family. "Do you want me to go with you?" she asked with concern. "No, thank you." I forced a smile. "This is my family's business. I have to handle it myself." After breakfast, I packed my small bag. Mrs. Peterson insisted on having the center's van drive me, but I declined. I wanted a little more time alone to gather my thoughts. As I was leaving, Arthur called out to me. "Remember, Eleanor, you always have a place here. If things don't work out over there, you come right back." The other seniors echoed his support. I fought back tears and waved goodbye. In just a few days, these strangers had become more understanding than my own family. On the bus, I stared out at the passing streets, remembering when I first moved in with my son 5 years ago. My husband had just passed away, and Michael, worried about me living alone, suggested I move in. I had agreed, dreaming of a happy family life, only to fall into 5 years of cold, passive aggression. Sarah was dismissive from the start, and it escalated to harsh words and disrespectful actions. Michael always looked the other way, sometimes even siding with his wife. I had wanted to move out many times, but I couldn't bear to leave my grandson, Leo. The bus arrived at my stop. I walked slowly towards the house I had lived in for 5 years, but had never truly called home. Standing at the front door, I took a deep breath and rang the bell. Surprisingly, Sarah answered. She was in her loungewear, her hair tied back messily, without her usual makeup. She looked almost haggard. "Mom," she said softly. "You're here." I nodded, unsure how to respond to this rare display of civility. I walked into the living room and noticed it was much tidier than usual. There was even a vase of fresh lilies on the dining table. "Leo is at a friend's house," Sarah said, taking my bag. "Michael went to the grocery store. He said we're all having hot pot for dinner tonight." I raised an eyebrow. Hot pot? As I remembered, Sarah never allowed hot pot in the house, complaining about the smell and how unhealthy it was. "Would you like something to drink? Tea or juice?" Sarah asked, her tone unnaturally polite. "Tea would be lovely, thank you." As Sarah went to the kitchen, I sat on the sofa and noticed the newspaper with my article on the coffee table. It was open to my story, a half-empty cup of coffee beside it. "Mom, your tea?" Sarah said, returning with the cup. She saw me looking at the newspaper and blushed. "You saw it?" I asked. She looked down, fiddling with her teacup. "A lot of people in the neighborhood group chat were sharing it. They said you spoke very well." We fell into silence. It was the first time in 5 years that we had been alone together without a tense atmosphere. "Sarah," I finally broke the silence. "Why the sudden change of heart? Is it because of the newspaper article?" She looked up sharply, a flicker of hurt in her eyes. "Do you think I'm that shallow?" I didn't answer, but my expression said it all. Sarah took a deep breath. The day you left, Michael and I had a huge fight. I said you were overreacting, but for the first time, he took your side. He said I had gone too far, Her fingers twisted together. Later, my parents found out, and they chewed me out. My dad said, he said if my own mother had treated her mother-in-law that way, she would have been thrown out of the house. I was surprised she would admit all this. Then yesterday, seeing you on stage, Sarah's voice grew quieter. So confident, so radiant. I realized you weren't just the long-suffering mother-in-law I had in my head. You were a talented, dignified person. My heart quickened. This was the most honest Sarah had ever been with me. Mom, she started to say, but was interrupted by the sound of the door opening. Grandma! Leo ran in and threw himself into my arms. You're really back. Mommy said you were coming today, but I was afraid she was tricking me. I hugged my grandson tightly. Grandma promised you, didn't I? Michael followed him in, carrying grocery bags. He looked relieved to see us. Mom, you're here. I bought your favorite lamb and tofu. Dinner was surprisingly harmonious. The hot pot was bubbling, and Sarah even proactively prepared my dipping sauce. Michael kept asking about the center, showing genuine interest in my new venture. Leo chattered away about his friend's new pet, occasionally making me promise I wouldn't disappear again. Looking at this warm scene, the wall around my heart began to soften. Maybe change was possible. But another voice in my head warned me not to be too trusting. The wounds of 5 years couldn't possibly heal in 2 days. That night, lying in the familiar guest bed, I tossed and turned. This room had witnessed so many of my lonely nights and silent tears. What would I do tomorrow? Stay and give this family a second chance, or bravely choose an independent life? A sliver of moonlight cut through the curtains, drawing a silver line on the floor. It was as if a little light was finally breaking through in my life. Early morning sunlight streamed through the curtains. I woke up and, out of habit, headed to the kitchen to make breakfast. But when I got there, I saw Sarah, awkwardly trying to fry an egg. Mom, you're awake? She turned and saw me, beads of sweat on her forehead. I was trying to make breakfast. It's not going so well. The egg in the pan was a bit burnt, and the toast that popped out of the toaster was a little too dark. But the effort warmed my heart. Let me, I said, taking the spatula. You need to use low heat for eggs. For once, Sarah didn't argue. She stepped aside. We stood side by side in the kitchen, one teaching, one learning, in a surprisingly harmonious atmosphere. After breakfast, Michael went to work and Leo went to school, leaving just me and Sarah at home. An awkward silence fell between us. Mom, Sarah finally spoke. Are you going back to the center? I put down my teacup. Yes. I promised them I would teach a traditional cooking class. Oh, she said, looking down at her hands. So, are you still going to live here? The direct question caught me off guard. The wounds of the past 5 years wouldn't heal overnight, but I didn't want to completely sever ties with this family, especially with Leo. Sarah, I chose my words carefully. I need some time to think. So much has happened. She nodded, a flicker of disappointment in her eyes. Well, at least stay for today, okay? I want you to teach me how to cook a few dishes. This request surprised me. The old Sarah had sneered at my cooking. Okay, I agreed. What do you want to learn? The pot roast that Leo loves, she said softly, and the noodle soup with gravy that Michael always talks about. And so, we spent a surprisingly peaceful morning. I taught her how to choose the right cut of meat and control the heat. She took diligent notes. In the afternoon, my phone rang. It was Mrs. Peterson. Eleanor, great news. The community has approved our proposal for a series of traditional food culture classes, twice a week. They'll even provide the space and a basic budget. Her voice was full of excitement. Have you decided? Will you be our head instructor? I glanced at Sarah, who was carefully dicing meat. A decision formed in my mind. Yes, I will, but I probably won't be living at my son's house long term. There was a short pause. Have you found another place to live? Not yet, but I'm going to start looking, I said, lowering my voice. I want to maintain my own independent living space. When I hung up, Sarah was looking at me curiously. The center? Yes, I said frankly. They've invited me to teach a cooking class. I accepted. That's great, she said, much to my surprise. You're perfect for that. That afternoon I went for a walk by myself and found myself at the bus stop. On a whim, I got on the bus to Silver Harbor. Mrs. Peterson was surprised to see me. "Eleanor, what brings you here?" "I'm looking for a small apartment for a single senior," I said directly, "preferably close to the center." Her eyes lit up. "What a coincidence. There's a one-bedroom apartment for rent in the building next door. The landlord is our own Mr. Williams, and the price is very reasonable. Want to go see it now?" The apartment wasn't large, but it was sunny and had a spacious kitchen. It was only a 10-minute walk from the center. More importantly, it represented a possibility, a space that was entirely my own. "I'll take it," I said on the spot. When I returned to my son's house, it was dark. The whole family was sitting in the living room, as if waiting for me. "Mom, where have you been?" Michael asked, standing up. "We were worried. I went to look at an apartment," I said calmly. "I've decided to rent my own place." The words dropped like a bomb. Michael's eyes widened, Sarah's face paled, and Leo burst into tears. "Grandma, don't go." I knelt and hugged my grandson. "Sweetie, Grandma isn't leaving you. I just need my own little house. You can come visit me any time, and I'll come visit you too." "Why?" Michael's voice trembled. "Did we do something wrong again?" "No, quite the opposite," I said, looking at my son. "Your changes over the past few days have touched me deeply. But I've realized something. I need my own space, and a sense of worth that doesn't depend on my family role." "Is it because of me?" Sarah's voice choked. "Because of how I treated you?" "Partly," I said honestly, "but it's mostly for me. At 78, I want to try a different way of living." That night, we had the most profound conversation we'd ever had. I told them about the sense of belonging I had found at the center, the sense of accomplishment from the community event, and my plans for the cooking class. To my surprise, Michael and Sarah ended up being supportive. "Mom, if this is what you've decided," Michael said, taking my hand, "I'll help you move. But please promise me you'll come over for dinner often, and let Leo visit you." "Of course," I said, smiling at a red-eyed Sarah. "I still have to teach you how to cook, after all." A week later, I moved into my new home. The seniors from the center came to help me clean and set up. Arthur even built me a small bookshelf for my cookbooks. On moving day, Michael's family came to help. Leo ran around the empty rooms, calling it Grandma's secret base. Sarah quietly helped me organize the kitchen, putting everything in the most convenient places. "Mom," she said hesitantly before leaving, Can I come to your cooking class?" I was taken aback for a moment, then smiled. "Of course, you're welcome. But what I teach you at home is the private lesson version." She smiled back, and I realized it was the first genuine smile I had seen from her in my memory. That night, lying in my new bed, in a space decorated entirely to my liking, I felt a sense of freedom and contentment I had never known. For the first time in my 78 years, I truly had a space and an identity that was all my own. The moonlight streamed in, blessing my new life. It wasn't an ending, but a brand new beginning. On the first day of the traditional food culture class, the classroom at the center was packed. There were not only seniors, but also many young parents with their children, and even a few college-aged students. I stood at the front, my heart pounding as I looked at the eager faces. "Welcome, everyone," I cleared my throat. "Today, we'll be talking about the techniques and symbolism of traditional holiday baking." The class was a great success. I demonstrated various techniques, explained the meaning behind different shapes, and the students practiced enthusiastically. As I was helping a young mother with her dough, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure slipping in through the back door. It was Sarah. She found a seat in the corner and started taking notes. During the break, she brought me a cup of hot tea. "Mom, you were wonderful. When did you get here?" I asked, surprised. "Right at the beginning," she said, a bit shyly. "I didn't want to disturb you, so I sat in the back. Can I come to your class regularly?" "Of course," I smiled. "But haven't I already taught you a lot at home?" "It's different," she shook her head. "Watching you teach up there, you're radiant." After class, as I was packing up, Sarah came over to help. "Mom," she hesitated, "I want to apologize. For everything over the past 5 years." I stopped and looked at her. Her eyes were red. I shouldn't have treated you that way, she said, her voice trembling. I always saw you as a burden, an intruder I had to tolerate. It wasn't until I saw you on that stage and heard how much people respected you that I realized how foolish I've been. I was speechless. The funny thing is, she continued with a bitter smile, I was always jealous of how close you and Michael were. My own parents were very strict, never affectionate. Seeing the bond you two had, it made me crazy. So, I hurt you to hide my own insecurity. Her explanation left me with a mix of emotions. So, that was the root of 5 years of cruelty. Sarah, I said softly, taking her hand. Thank you for telling me this. Let's let the past be the past. We can start over, okay? She nodded, tears finally falling. Mom, can you teach me more of your recipes? I want Leo to remember the taste of his grandma's cooking. And just like that, the wall between us began to crumble. Sarah became a regular in my class and often brought Leo to my little apartment to cook with me. Sometimes Michael would join, and the 4 of us would crowd into my small kitchen, filling it with laughter. One weekend, Michael showed up at my door alone, holding 2 beers. Mom, can we talk? He asked, looking weary. We sat on my small balcony as the sunset painted the sky. Mom, he choked out, I'm a terrible son. I was stunned. For 5 years I watched Sarah treat you that way, and I never once stood up for you, he said, running his hands through his hair in anguish. Sometimes I even agreed with her. I don't know how I became that person. My heart ached seeing his pain, but all I wanted to do was comfort him. Son, a parent's love is unconditional. No matter what you've done, I'm still your mother. But I don't deserve it, he cried. Seeing you on that stage, I realized what an amazing person you are. And I let you suffer in our home for 5 years. He broke down, sobbing like a child. I held him, patting his back just as I did when he had nightmares as a little boy. Listen to me, I said, once he had calmed down. What's past is past. The important thing is that we're all trying to be better now, aren't we? This whole experience, it helped me find a new purpose. If it wasn't for how Sarah treated me, I might never have left my comfort zone, never discovered that my worth is more than just being a mother or a grandmother. You don't hate us? He asked, confused. Hate? No, I shook my head. I was hurt, I was disappointed, but I never hated you. Now, seeing you and Sarah change, seeing Leo so happy, I only feel grateful. We talked late into the night. He told me he had started seeing a therapist and that he and Sarah were working through their own family issues. As he was leaving, he hugged me tightly. Mom, thank you for your forgiveness. There's nothing to forgive, I said. Just be yourself, a good and honest man. That's enough. After he left, I stood on the balcony, looking at the stars. The wounds of 5 years wouldn't disappear overnight, but tonight's conversation was a start. Perhaps that disastrous Thanksgiving dinner wasn't entirely a bad thing. It forced each of us to confront the worst parts of ourselves, and only then could we truly begin to grow. Thanksgiving came around again. This year, Silver Harbor decided to host a multi-generational potluck, inviting seniors and their families. As one of the main organizers, I was busier than ever. Michael's family arrived, Sarah carrying 2 large casserole dishes. Mom, I made the 4-cheese macaroni and the green bean casserole just like you taught me. See if they pass inspection. I took a taste and gave her a thumbs up. Perfect. My student has graduated. Leo tugged at my sleeve. Grandma, I helped too. I mashed the potatoes. Wonderful, I beamed, kissing his cheek. The center filled with laughter and conversation. I looked around the room. This was the reunion I had always dreamed of, not a forced harmony, but a true connection of hearts. Halfway through the dinner, Mrs. Peterson pulled me aside. Eleanor, the community board has a proposal. They want to establish a foundation in your name, the Eleanor Vance Dignity Fund, to help seniors who are facing neglect or abuse in their homes. Would you be willing? I was stunned. That's too much. I'm just an ordinary old woman. No, you're not, she said seriously. Your story has inspired so many people. I looked out at the hall. Michael was helping Arthur pour some cider. Sarah was showing a few of the ladies how to use their smartphones. Leo was in the middle of a group of children, proudly declaring, "That amazing Grandma Eleanor is my grandma." "Okay," I nodded, my voice thick with emotion. "I would be honored. But I want the fund to not only help those who are suffering, but also to educate the younger generation on how to connect with their elders." "Brilliant," Mrs. Peterson exclaimed. "Oh, and the local news station wants to interview you about the foundation and your cooking class." As the party was winding down, Michael found me in the kitchen. "Mom, can I talk to you for a second?" He pulled a key out of his pocket. "This is a key to our house, a new one." I took the key, my heart full. 5 years ago, I thought a key meant a home. Now I knew that a key doesn't guarantee a sense of belonging. "Mom, I know a key doesn't mean much," Michael said, as if reading my mind. "But I want you to know, our door is always open for you, not out of duty, but because we love you." That simple word, love, made my eyes well up. It was the first time in 5 years I had heard it from my son so directly. "And," he added sheepishly, "Sarah says if you don't come over often, she'll never be able to master all your recipes." I laughed through my tears. "Tell Sarah she's welcome in my little kitchen any time. You can all come for dinner too. Just call ahead." "Really?" Michael's eyes lit up. "How about next weekend? Sarah wants to learn your noodle soup recipe, and I want to learn the pot roast." "Of course," I said, patting his shoulder. "On one condition. You have to be my testers for my next class." Back in the main hall, Mrs. Peterson was announcing the final event, a group photo. "Eleanor, come on, you stand in the center." I stood before the camera, my family on my left, my Silver Harbor friends on my right. "Okay, everyone, smile," the photographer called out. 3, 2, 1, Happy Thanksgiving. "Happy Thanksgiving." Everyone cheered, their smiles captured in a flash. In that moment, I finally understood. Family isn't just about blood, it can be a choice of the heart. Dignity doesn't come from others, it comes from awakening to your own self-worth. At 78 years old, my life was just beginning.